These are the 8.3 notes for trig. We're going to be talking about the law of cosines today. And we're going to use the law of cosines anytime we can't use the law of sines. So in order to use the law of sines, remember you need the same letter, two of the same letter. And if you don't have that, then we're going to be forced to use the law of cosines. All right, so you've got a lot of formulas for the law of cosines, depending on what you're trying to find. So if you're trying to find a missing side, you use this for the lowercase ABC. Then if you're trying to find a missing angle, you use these three formulas for capital A, B, and C for your angles. All right, let's look at the first one. It says solve the triangle and round to the nearest tenth. Remember, solve the triangle means find all the missing sides and angles. So we'll start by labeling. A, which means this across from it would be lowercase a, side A. Here's side B, so this would be capital B. And C in capital C, lowercase c. All right, I'll make my table. And we'll put the numbers in that we know. 2 would be A. Capital B, 45 degrees. All your capital numbers are always going to have the degree sign in it. That's kind of how you can tell whether you've put them in the right place. And then C is going to be 4. And notice now that I don't have any of the same letters. I don't have both A's, both B's, or both C's. So I can't use my law of sines. I'm going to have to use my law of cosines. In order to do that, I'm going to start by finding lowercase b. When we're doing law of cosines, we always need to find our sides first. So we'll start by finding lowercase b, and we'll use this equation right there. All right, so b squared equals, and I'm going to take each one of these and plug it in that I know. So 2 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times, I'm going to use that as a times sign, times a times c times the cosine of angle B, 45 degrees. Then I'm going to type all of that into my calculator, exactly like I see it. At the very end, I'll have my answer for b squared. Okay, so make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So go to mode, scroll all the way down to degree, make sure it's in degree mode, and then we can type this in. So 2 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 2 times 4 times the cosine of 45. Be careful, most of the mistakes that happen here happen in a calculator. So just double check to make sure you have that exactly correct and hit enter. And that's our answer for b squared. So if that's my answer for b squared, I'm going to need to square root that. So what we're going to do, we're going to square root the answer. So we're going to square root that 8.686 number. And there's a button in your calculator right down here, if you guys can see it. It's this ANS button, and it's pretty much like a copy paste. So if I wanted to square root this, instead of having to type that whole decimal in, I could just use this answer button and it would copy it in for me. So we're going to square root by hitting second or shift, and then your square button, if you notice in the top left corner, has that square root. And then we're going to type in the answer. Instead of typing in all the decimal, we're going to hit second or shift and then the answer button. And so that's telling my calculator to square root the last answer that I had on the screen. That'll get me 2.9 rounded to the nearest tenth place. And plug it in like that. All right, so for the next part, we can either find angle A or angle C. Either one is fine. I'm going to go ahead and find angle A. And to find angle A, we're going to be working with this equation. So the cosine of A equals, the parentheses here are incredibly important. So you must put all the parentheses. 2.9 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 squared. Another set of parentheses. 2 times b times c. All right. And then we'll type this into our calculator, making sure again that you include all the parentheses. So we'll start with a parenthesis and then 2.9 squared. And just type everything in very carefully. Make sure you close the parenthesis, then do the division sign, and then start a new parenthesis. All right. So it should look like that in the calculator. Double check it to make sure you typed everything correctly. Then we're going to hit enter. This is the answer for the cosine of A. We don't want the cosine of A, we just want A. So remember how we get rid of the cosine in front is to inverse. So once we have that answer in our calculator, we're going to cosine inverse the answer that we have on our screen. That'll be second or shift cosine. Make sure it pops up as cosine -1. And then second shift the answer. And it'll take the inverse cosine of the last thing you had on the screen. Yeah, it gives us 28.4 when we round, 28.4 degrees. All right, so I'll put that in spot A. And then the good news about the last part, you can actually just subtract from 180 to find this last one. So in order to find C, you do 180 minus 28.4 minus 45. So I'm not going to show you that in the calculator. I know you guys know how to subtract. I'm getting 106.6. 180 minus 28 at 106.6. All right. So again, solve the triangle means you got to find everything, every single answer. The next couple are going to be a little bit shorter, so let's look at the back side. Went ahead and put the formulas on the back for you as well, so it'll be a little easier for you to see. All right. We have, again, ABC, and they give you the 3 sides. So A is 48. B is 26. C is 43. All they want us to do is find angle C. So we are just looking for this one right here to the nearest 10th of a degree. So that's 1 decimal place. All right, in order to find this, we are looking for a missing side. Sorry, for a missing angle. Capital C is a missing angle. So we're going to be focused on these equations right here. And since we're trying to find C, we're going to be using that equation. Right. So cosine of C equals, and then work the setup very carefully. So plug everything into the right place. Always looking back to the equation. Close the parenthesis. Open a new parenthesis at the bottom. This is very important. You have to open a new parenthesis at the bottom. Otherwise, your calculator will not do it correctly. And close it at the end. Once we have that answer, we're going to try to get rid of this cosine here by inverse cosining. So practice typing this in your calculator. Again, a lot of mistakes happen from the calculator. So make sure even as I'm typing it in, you're still able to type it in your calculator. Notice I close a parenthesis at the top, then divide and open a new parenthesis. That's really important. And close a parenthesis around the top and the bottom. All right, remember this will give us our answer for the cosine of C, and we'll need to take the inverse. So second cosine to get the inverse, and then second answer, which you'll copy paste that decimal in. And we'll get 63.1 to the nearest tenth. 63.1. All right, for the next one, example 3, they went ahead and changed the letters here. Instead of using A, B, C, they used E, F, G. So we're just going to keep those in the same order as our A, B, and C and just kind of coordinate with each of our formulas. So E, F, and G. Put in the numbers we know. And then my goal is to find angle F. So just this one right here. So I'm going to allow that F to represent my letter B since it's in the middle. So we're going to be using, excuse me, that formula right here. Every time you see an A, we're going to use E. Every time you use a B, it's going to be the F, right? So it's almost like having the A's, the B's, and the C's. And just switch that out very carefully. All right. So cosine of B, or cosine of F, I guess I should say, equals. All right, the A, which is going to be my E number, 8.9 squared. The C, which are the G's on this problem, 2.2 squared. And the B, which is my F, 7.7 squared. Close the parenthesis. Open a new one at the bottom. 2 times A, or E, 8.9, times C, which is G, which is 2.2. Remember, at the end, you have to get rid of the cosine. So you're going to inverse cosine the answer, and that's how you're going to get that cosine to cancel out. Try typing that into your calculator. And make sure you can get an answer of 51 degrees. If you do not get 51, pause the video, type it in again, make sure you can get 51 degrees. If you're still having any issues, let me know next time you see me and we'll go through your calculator together. All right, for our last problem, example 4, we've got a story problem here. First thing you want to do with a story problem is draw a picture. So Mrs. Shannon is standing in her neighborhood. She throws a Frisbee in a straight line, 70 feet to house A, turns 70 degrees, throws it to house B. So I've got Mrs. Shannon, then house A and B. So I'll put me over here in the corner right here. And then we've got house A. And down here we'll have house B. Either way, you're going to be drawing a triangle with your sides, with your angles A, B, and C. All right, now let's draw this out. She throws a Frisbee in a straight line 70 feet to house A. So here I am. I'll give myself a little bit of hair there. Here I am. I throw the Frisbee this direction, 70 feet. So that's going to be a side. Then I turn 70 degrees. So the house can't turn, but I can turn. So 70 degrees will be capital C. And then I throw another Frisbee this direction, 50 feet to house B. And we need to know how far the toss is from house A to house B. We want to know this, right? And if that's what we want to know, we're actually going to be looking for side C. All right, we'll set this up in our chart. Angle C. And then remember, the letters are across from each other. So if house A is up in the top right, then 50 degrees will be 50 will be my side. And then house B is the bottom right, so 70 would be my side for B. And my goal is just to find lowercase c, side C, so that's all I'm looking for here. So take a look at all the equations that you have. Which one is going to help you find side C? So in order to find side C, we want to be working with this one right here. C squared equals. So we'll very carefully put our numbers in the correct place. C squared equals 50 squared plus 70 squared minus 2 times 50 times 70 times the cosine of 70 degrees. All right, double check to make sure you have all the numbers in the right spot. And then we'll type it into our calculator. Remember, at the end of this one, to get rid of that square, you want to square root it. Square root the answer at the end. Take a second now, type it in. Make sure it looks exactly like what you wrote out. Calculator automatically opens a parenthesis with my 70 degrees, so I close it. And remember, this is going to get us our answer for C squared, so we'll need to square root it at the end. Square root button, you hit second or shift. And then the answer to copy paste, second answer. So it's going to take the square root of that 5,000 number. And it doesn't ask us about how to round it, so you can call that 71. You could call it 70.8. Up to you. I'll call it 70.8 feet.